continues on here from Sammy's Sports Bar and Grill.
You know, the Steelers fans are one of the most hardcore sports fans ever, and they travel in flocks. They will take over a bar during football season. But they're fun, though, and they win. That's, why not be a Steelers fan, right?
And God help you if you're at a bar and the Steeler game's on and they do something wrong and you cheer. You have 300 people looking at you ready to kill you.
Don't do that. Don't do that. Just wear black and gold.
Tell you what, if you're a Steeler fan, you're going to love your schedule if you're a fantasy fan, because they have the second easiest fantasy schedule this coming up season.
Behind the Bears?
Behind the Bears, exactly right. But how fair is that? Your team like Pittsburgh, year in and year out, and now you get blessed with a easy schedule.
Yeah, but you got to be careful. I mean, you don't... What we were talking about earlier, when you mentioned Troy Aikman, Ben Roethlisberger's another guy where, yes, Pittsburgh wins a lot of games, and he's a big-name quarterback, but he doesn't really produce on the fantasy level. He's never gone over 20 touchdowns besides the one season where he had 32 2 years ago, and it bumped him up into like the top 5 of everybody's draft board last year. And then he came out and threw 18 touchdowns again, which is right on par. So even with an easy schedule, Pittsburgh just doesn't air the ball out that much. And Roethlisberger, I will never draft.
The previous comments on the Steeler quarterback was made by Pedigo. The name Pedigo.
Yeah. Oh, write it down.
So Steeler fans.
Yeah. Write it down.
We'll also go through Eric's 10 rules of fantasy football in just a little bit, but we do want to talk about some of the different types of leagues, too, that are out there. And I know, Mark, how many leagues are you in this year? 3?
I'm in 4 leagues this year. I toned it down. I'm too old to keep getting in 6, 7, 8 leagues, so I'm down to 4 leagues. Hallelujah.
Well, and Steve's not in a league, and we're trying to talk him into it, but I think I was reluctant too 6 years ago, Steve, until I got into it.
Yeah, so was I.
And the most fun about it is that on Sunday, instead of living and dying with your team, you get to live and die with like every game.
This is true.
You have a guy on like almost every team, and so it's much more exciting to watch the entire season and almost every game all day long instead of just the Bears game.
And I agree with that aspect, and I've been involved in it a very long time ago, played general manager, kind of draftee only guy, kind of partial ownership into one league. It did make it fun for Sunday and Monday, there's no doubt about that, but the guys, and you can talk about it, and it's not that I'm a terribly busy individual. It's not like I do, moonlight for NASA or anything. I'm not, creating some sort of super species of robot in my house or anything. But I just feel like, the time commitment that people who are serious about it put in, and I just can't match up with that kind of a,
I don't have a life.
Veterans.
Mark doesn't either. Eric has one now.
Yeah, Pedigo truly has no. He should really be like me,
married,
but he's just kind of a delinquent.
I know. I sacrifice,
What does Amanda think about the fantasy football league?
Oh, she hates it.
So there you go.
Yeah, she hates fantasy football. Every year she's ready to throw the computer in the trash.
Now Jan, on the other hand, loves it because it gets me off her hair.
Oh,
so true.
She doesn't see you on Sunday.
If it was up to her, I'd be in 15 different leagues.
Well, we've only been married for a couple of months yet, so she doesn't.
That could change.
Yeah, right.
Kickoff is September 10th. That is a Thursday, by the way.
That's
going to change with legal papers.
That poor girl. She loves me.
But there are numerous leagues out there, and we talk about the PPR league. That's point per reception league, where you get a point every time someone catches the ball. Different leagues, you can play different numbers of quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, defense, kicker, and a lot now even have the flex. There's even the IDP leagues where you get the defensive players in there, which is just, I don't have time for that. I would freak out if I had to draft the defensive
we talked about
players.
Off the air. I just finished up with an IDP draft, and 30 rounds. 30 rounds.
How many hours did it take? Oh, wait, not hours.
We're talking days. This was like 8 days off and on online. And because you draft,
Nightmare.
you have two linebacking, 2 defensive line, and 2 defensive back starters, not to mention the backups, along with your regular offensive guys.
Unreal.
By the time that was over, I'm telling you what, I thought Social Security was going to kick in.
Is that when you lost your hair?
I
love IDP leagues. Don't get me wrong; they're a load of fun. But drafting them is it drives you nuts.
And guys like our position, where people call in and actually ask advice, because I found the other night I was doing my show and somebody asked me in my chat room about the trade they had offered when they threw in some defensive players, and I said, oh man, I can't really help you. I don't know much about IDP. And I guess I'm going to be fielding calls and handing out advice. Maybe I should study up a little bit on how they work and who's good and who's not. But
Always remember on IDP,
I don't have that kind of time.
Linebackers are like running backs.
Right.
Remember that. Remember
Tackles.
that much. You can't go wrong with a linebacker. Yeah.
So if you're counting tackles, then you really need those guys to get all the fake tackles in the film room the next Monday when they readjust tackle numbers, right?
That is the problem with the changing of points.
Yeah, because you credit out, Brian Urlacher gets credit for 9 tackles on a Sunday, but then on Monday or Tuesday in the film room, team reevaluates or
they give him a full sack, or then they give him a half sack.
You can have a win when the game's over, and then the next day when things get reevaluated, it'll be changed to a loss. That actually happened in our league a couple of times last season, and we don't have IDP. It can happen because they adjust offensive stats too.
Right.
They come back through, and every now and then a guy will get an extra yard that he didn't pick up. And I remember last year, a guy in my league won a game by 1 point. And then the next day, I forget what they took off, but they took something off, and he lost that point, so he ended up as a tie. Well, we have a tiebreaker system set up. So in that tiebreaker system, he actually lost. So he went from winning to tying to losing, and he wasn't happy. He wasn't happy. It's not fun to be commissioner on days like that.
That's why I don't like being commissioner.
I hate it.
529-1450 is the phone number, 529-1450. It's a special edition of the Press Box. Adam Stark, Eric Pedigo, Mark Graham, and Steve Bridge talking fantasy football and NFL football and anything you guys want to talk about today, too. We're well-versed in all sports, or we say we are. We say we are anyway. Another league, though, guys, that I'm a little bit more intrigued about the more I hear about it is an auction league. And I don't know that, I know you guys aren't in them, but I'm kind of leaning into maybe getting in an auction league. What do you guys think?
I just haven't boned up enough on it to really be sure, but the premise is interesting where you have so much money and you buy your players, and sure, you want Adrian Peterson, go ahead and bid on him. If you get him, then you end up with about $10 to get another 15 players.
Right. Well, there's a lot more peanuts involved in an auction league, but it does look intriguing. And I just think it changes your whole strategy because you are banking so much, literally banking so much on one guy.
The auction leagues have been around, too, for a while. Sure. I remember hearing about those when we were in high school. A few of our friends were doing fantasy football back then, and I remember hearing about auction leagues back then. And, it almost seems to me like if you do enough homework and research, you can blow a ton of money on one really good player, like, say, an Adrian Peterson or maybe a Jones Drew or a Forte. And then after that, just spend $1 or $2 here and there and get a bunch of, sleeper under the radar guys, because there's plenty of those out there. If you do your homework, there's plenty of guys that can contribute that in an auction league you wouldn't have to pay that much for.
And a lot more so now than there was 10 years ago when they first came out, because there are so many more running backs and not just that feature back like we talked about too. And like we keep talking about too, the keeper leagues. You can keep 1 or 2 or 4, and now I'm hearing some people keep them all.
We've set up a new league, a new system in our old league where it's unlimited keepers. So every year you can keep anyone on your team no matter what, and you don't sacrifice draft position next year. We're trying to make it more like the real NFL.